We know that you're here on purpose and that we have a wonderful program for you today. We welcome you, knowing that no one is here by accident. Each of us is an essential part of the energy that is unity on the Eastern Shore, and we celebrate our oneness with each other and with God all around the world. We know that God, as light and love, expresses equally on every path. I have a couple of announcements for you this morning. If you want to stay and visit after the service today, the room will be open for as long as there's conversation. The Quest is still meeting on Wednesday afternoons at 1:30 at this Zoom room. You're welcome. And the prayer pause is at 9 o'clock in the morning on Thursdays at this Zoom room. So you're welcome to that as well. Let's have our first positive affirmation this morning. We lovingly and gratefully acknowledge the presence of the divine in our midst. And our purpose statement, our purpose is to foster a new level of spiritual awareness through worship and fellowship, and to lift one another to a Christ-like maturity. Our affirmations are here. Oh, the spiritual power that we celebrate this month is wisdom. It's a golden yellow and a sunny yellow. And every time you see yellow, why, remember that our choices can be wise. Here are affirmations. There is only one presence and one power in my life and in the universe. God, the good, omnipotent. We know God blesses all special intentions in our prayer box, and that God's perfect plan is in action. We are alive, alert, awake, joyous, and enthusiastic about life. I'm ready to introduce our speaker today. Greg Tamlin was raised on a fishing boat in the Bahamas. He was illiterate until the age of 13, when his father traded a large yellowfin tuna for a guitar and some Hardy Boys mysteries, and taught him how to play music and to read. His mother helped him learn harmony and write his first songs. After his father's untimely death in a shark hunting accident, his mother became fascinated by voodoo and immigrated to Haiti. He swam here from there. And his performances for us been called psycho-spiritual experiences that take his audience on a musical joyride into the profound and the absurd, the personal and the universal, the sacred and the silly. So, Greg, please come and be sacred and silly with us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Doreen. That was really sweet. I had no idea you were going to read that crazy bio. That's for anybody that's actually paying attention. That's almost entirely made up. Well, the part she read is entirely made up. I didn't grow up in the Caribbean. I grew up right here in Kansas City, where I'm coming from, and I'm sorry how dark it is. I'm sitting right in front of a window, and I have 3 lamps on, but it's so dark outside that it's like tornado weather, and we're getting a downpour and lightning and thunder. So if I suddenly disappear, you'll know it's the storm. But hopefully we'll be fine, and that won't happen. I just really want you to know I'm very, very happy to be doing this with you this morning. I really appreciate you having me as a guest, and I'm excited, and thank you. So, as Doreen said, or alluded to, what I'd like to share with you this morning is something I call the sacred and the silly. And it's basically about pathways to the joy of now, of this moment. Because what we hear all the time from psychologists and saints and sages is that the now is the only real place to be. The now is really all we have. And what I think happens when we get to be grown-ups with a lot of important grown-up stuff to do is we forget how beautiful it is to actually be in the moment. And so I'm going to talk about ways to get there and stay there. Now, to get into this, what I want to do is I want to go back 800 years, halfway around the world, ancient Persia, the Sufi mystic poets that were writing then. You've probably heard of Rumi. Raise your hand if you've heard of Rumi. Most of us have heard of Rumi. And how many of us have heard of Rumi's contemporary Hafiz? Hafiz, or Hafiz is sometimes pronounced. If you don't know Hafiz, I invite you to go to a spiritual bookstore or Amazon and get a book of Hafiz poems, because not only are they deep and profound and beautiful like Rumi, many of them are also whimsical, which is why I love Hafiz so much. So 800 years ago, Hafiz said this: "What is the difference between your experience of existence and that of a saint? The saint knows that the spiritual pathway is a sublime chess game with God, and that the beloved has just made such a fantastic move that the saint is now tripping over joy, bursting out in laughter and saying, 'I surrender.' Whereas, my dear, I'm afraid you still think you have 1,000 serious moves." So, it's good, isn't it? And I can relate to this really, really well, because about 30 years ago, almost exactly 30 years ago, I got into a lot of trouble mentally and emotionally and spiritually, physically, every way you can be in trauma. I was in trauma. It's a long story. We don't have time for it, but it was really hard. It was scary. It was really scary. There was a lot of despair involved. It was a kind of a mental illness. So, a very definite low point. Maybe you've had a low point. If you've had a low point, you know what it's like, and you know how it jumpstarts your motivation to get better. So I was looking at my life, trying to figure out what happened, how I got to be the way that I was, and come up with some kind of excuse. So this is what I figured out. This is called just a little soul hanging out in space. Well, I was just a little soul hanging out in space, getting ready to come into the human race. And God came over and he said to me, "Well, kid, what you want to be? It's time for you to go get a life. But you don't have to have no struggle or strife. You can live a life of comfort and ease, worldly pleasures, do as you please. I can give you parents with lots of money, Southern California, bright and sunny, tall and handsome, a movie star, fancy parties, expensive cars, or maybe an athlete with rhythm and grace. You could do the Olympics, win every race, confidence just oozing from you, and the women, they're gonna love you. Or maybe you'd like to help those in low places, like a Peace Corps worker, Mother Teresa. But you know, when it's all said and done, being the Pope is a lot more fun. Or how about a yogi with magical powers? You could levitate for hours and hours and teach everybody to walk on hot coals, sell books and CDs by the truckloads. Well, what do you say, kid? You make the call. You can have any part, or you can have it all. You just tell me what you want to be, and I'll give it to you. It's my guarantee, yeah. Well, I just stood there with my mouth open, 'cause you know, that's just what I'd been hoping. And while I was deciding to choose which one, I thought, Well, maybe I'll just have me some fun. 'Cause me and God, see, we're pretty tight. And I know God likes a good joke, all right. So I figure I'll pull his leg for a while, see if I can't make the old boy smile. So I say, Father, oh mine, you know, all that glory. To tell you the truth, it sounds kind of boring. I want a life with some challenge to it. You know, something I gotta work to get through it. I don't want fame and easy success. I want to be shamed and easily depressed with various physical and mental afflictions. Might as well throw in multiple addictions. I don't need life to be a sweet dream. I want writer's block and low self-esteem, sensitive skin and food allergies, and when I get around girls, make me sneeze. Make me wish that I had more height. Give me claustrophobia, stage fright, prone to worry, riddled with doubt, thinking I'll never figure life out. Yeah, that's it, God. That's what I want to have. And then I just shut up so he could laugh. God looked at me with a puzzled brow, shook his head and just said, "Holy cow." For a minute he stood there pulling his beard, and then he said, "Kid, you're pretty darn weird. And I know you're just playing the fool, but this time, kid, the joke's on you." And then he grinned at me and he yelled, "Shazam! That's my story, and here I am." All right. Thank you. I'm glad you could relate. I got to take a little drink. I got a froggy throat. Just a second. I'm glad you could relate. You know, Will Rogers said, when you find yourself in a hole, the first thing is stop digging. And that's true. We have to have some consciousness, some awareness around what we think about, because it tends to show up. What we think about tends to show up. So the good news about that is if we own that, we take responsibility for our lives, then there's power there, right? There's hope there. Because if I'm the problem in my life, I'm also what? The solution. No, the problem in everyone else's life. It's a little joke. I love that joke. Well, the Gospel of Thomas says, there's a really cute, sweet passage in the Gospel of Thomas. It says, if you bring forth that which is inside you, it will save you. Bring it forth. What's inside you will save you. Well, let me ask you this. Have you heard of, are you familiar with a painter, an artist named Donald Roller Wilson? Because I never heard of him, but I read about him in the Airline magazine. I cut this out and saved it. And Donald Roller Wilson has an amazing niche. All he paints are these really beautiful, very realistic, very gothic, very dark images of dogs and cats and chimpanzees dressed up in clothes doing bizarre things. You can see this one. You can see how gothic it is and how whimsical it is. But the reason that I cut this out and saved it is because of his quote. I love this quote. It takes all the arrogance out of everything you do when you know that God is so much bigger than you are. And yet, everything you are and do and see is filled with God. The trees, the asphalt, the people fighting over Aquanet at Walmart. That sounds silly, but silliness is just as important as love, just as important as tragedy. You can make a profound intellectual statement just by basing your efforts on silliness. Well, I agree completely. How many of us have seen this Robin Williams movie, Patch Adams? Have you seen that, Patch Adams? Almost everybody has seen it. And maybe if you've been lucky, you've seen the actual real Patch Adams in person or online give a talk. And if you have seen the real Patch Adams, you know that physically he's not like Robin Williams. Robin Williams is short like me, 5'8", 5'9". Patch Adams is really tall. He's like 6'7", and very skinny. He's kind of a beanpole type. He's got long gray hair down to mid-thigh, usually half dyed blue or purple, and he's dressed like a clown. He's a clown doctor. He's a medical doctor who dresses like a clown every day. Patch has figured out that clowning and silliness are the ways that he can inflict love and compassion on the world. Works the best for him, so that's what he does. He's a clown doctor. He's almost finished building the first silly hospital in the world, the Gesundheit Institute. It's in West Virginia. You can go there. You can look it up. You can volunteer. Check it out online if you want. The Gesundheit Institute. Well, I've been around Patch a lot at various conferences where we're both appearing or mutual friends, that kind of thing. And I see the effect that Patch Adams has had on the wellness community. He's created this wave that ripples all over the world in wellness and health settings by virtue of the fact that he's one person being silly in a profound way. One of the things I've heard him say more than once is he feels like the world is wallowing in misery, and that one of the most radical things you can do is to have a good day. Well, that's not radical to us in Unity. We teach that. But let me ask you this. We all know that life is serious, right? If we forget that life is serious, we can turn on the TV news for 2 minutes and we get reminded how serious life is. But is there anybody watching besides me who's ever had the particular gift or talent of making life even more serious than it already is? Because I'm an expert at this. I can forget everything I learned in 10 minutes and revert. So I wrote a song about this for myself. You can see if this relates to you, if this helps you. It's called Writer's Block: The Long-Term Positive and Negative Effects of Worry. I was worried about not writing any songs. No words, no tunes, nothing for way too long. I was worried I'd never write again. Maybe there was no more ink in my pen, and I thought about that, and I began to feel ashamed. I was ashamed that I'd been worried about not writing. I'd been through droughts before and come out fighting. It seemed like my worry was out of control, and I was ashamed about it down to my soul. And then it hit me what I was doing, and I started feeling guilty. I was guilty that I could let myself feel shame over something so insignificant as this writing game. I thought I'd released that stuff long ago, and I felt guilty that I had such a long way to go. And then I realized what I was doing, and I got embarrassed. I was embarrassed that my shame could make me feel guilty. All these negative thought patterns, man, it was silly. If someone could see inside my head, they'd give me a drug and put me to bed. Yeah, I was embarrassed. And that made me mad. I was angry that I could be so immature. I was angry at me, down on myself for sure. And as my anger turned into resentment, I thought about what the long-term effects of that meant, and I realized what I was doing to my body, and I began to feel afraid. I was afraid of what I was doing to myself. All these negative emotions affecting my health. If body and mind are so interconnected, my shame, guilt, worry, and fear were making me infected, and I was afraid that I was becoming depressed. And as I began to sink into depression, the effect on my body and mind became an obsession. The outcome of this could not be in doubt, and that gave me something new to worry about. I knew that I might not be around for too long, so I wrote it all down and I had a new song. And when I thought about that, I was fine again. All right. Thank you. It's been very silly, right? Very, very silly. But there's great joy in that, see? There's tremendous, terrific joy in taking something big and overwhelming and limiting and restrictive and troublesome and reframing it with humor. So all of a sudden it's not such a big deal anymore. It's just shrunk down to manageable size because I can laugh at it. So reframing with humor is a really good thing to practice. Both of those songs were about situations that were hard, but reframed with humor so that now they don't control me. Now I can have control over them. Reframing with humor. And worry is the enemy of joy, right? Because if we're worried, are we in this moment? Nope. Where are we? Well, we're in the past or the future, but we're not here. And the thing is, it's okay to look at the past and the future. Just don't stare. A lot of us get in the habit of staring. It's easy to do. We get a lot of encouragement from our culture to stare at the past and the future instead of being here. I heard Mel Brooks talking about this on television. He said, Socrates told us it's good to know thyself. He said, but I've learned it's way better to now thyself. Now thyself. He said we need more people living in the now, living every day like this is our last day. Which is why I never have any clean clothes, because who wants to do laundry on the last day? Right? Well, silliness is a great way to now thyself. Silliness is a great way to stop staring at the past and the future and come back to this moment. Every 4-year-old knows this. We knew it when we were 4. We just forgot. We grew up. We have a lot of important grown-up stuff to do. Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is where? Within. And to enter the kingdom of heaven, you must be like a child. So simple. So simple. But we forget. Like I said, we have a lot of important grown-up stuff to do here in the U.S. of stress, or as a friend of mine likes to call it, the excited states of America. So it's okay to practice. It's okay to remind yourself, give yourself reminders. People ask me all the time, they say, Greg, okay, I get what you're saying, but I am busy. I'd like to have more fun, more play in my life. But what's a quick way? What's an easy way to do that? And I like to say, well, my response is, because this is what's always worked for me, is this comedic practice that you can do very simply of not giving a serious answer to any question that doesn't absolutely require it. So, if you think about all the comedy duos you've seen, that's the whole formula. Don't give a serious answer to any question. That's the way it works. So people will say, okay, Greg, all right, so if I want to start doing that, how can I start doing that? And I'll say, well, what's the question you get asked all day? What's the one question you get asked all day long? How you doing? How's it going? How are you? And what do we normally say? Oh, fine. Oh, good. Okay. You know, once in a while we go out on a limb and we'll say fantastic or, great. Well, what if instead of that, somebody says, how you doing? You say, well, I'm still getting away with it. Or, how you doing? Parts of me are excellent. How you doing? My lawyer said not to answer that. How you doing? My tattoos are spreading. How you doing? You can see me? You can see how this goes on. There's a million things you can say. And what I like to do is just get a couple of new ones and keep them in my mental back pocket and try them out. When people ask me all day long, let's say, how you doing? Even on Zoom calls, how you doing? You can't get away from it, so you might as well be ready to have some fun with it. So if you want some ideas for things you can say to practice to see what works for you, you can go on my website, gregtamlin.com. I think we'll have that up later. And you'll see in the menu on the website, you'll see one of the listings is a humor blog in the menu. One of the options is the humor blog. And if you go to the humor blog, you'll see one of the blog entries is how you doing. And there's a couple dozen good answers to that question there. If you want to practice that, try it out. And I really encourage you to do it because it can change the way you think, which is, fun to start looking for humor. Now, I'm going to give you an example of how this can work sometimes. It doesn't always work this great, but sometimes it does. So you know how when you get on an airplane, on Southwest Airlines, you always board through the galley, and then you turn right to go to your seat. And there's always a flight attendant there in the galley to make sure you turn right and go to your seat instead of going into the cockpit. They don't want you flying the plane, so seats are that way. So I got on board Southwest, and there's a lovely little gal there, and she says, welcome aboard. How you doing? And I said, I'm hungry. Steak and lobster for lunch? And she thought that was pretty funny, and she started laughing, and she said, sure. How do you like your steak? And I said, rare. And she said, well, that's good because any steak on this airline would be extremely rare. And I laughed and I said, well done. So I went and sat down, and I don't know what that did for her, but it changed my whole day. I just went up to a new level because she and I had created this little moment together out of nothing that made us both laugh like crazy. And every time she came down the aisle, she would look at me and I would look at her and we would smile or have a little giggle, so like we had this thing going. So it's not always going to be a home run like that, but sometimes it is. Sometimes you're going to fall flat on your face. People are going to look at you like, what? Especially a stranger. But just try it. You never know what can happen. And see, the thing is that here in the excited states of America, the U.S. of stress, this is my theory. You don't have to buy this. But I think one of the reasons that it's so hard for some of us to lighten up is that our country was colonized to a great extent by the Puritans. Remember them? The Puritans? They were so serious, the English kicked them out. H.L. Mencken said, a Puritan is a person who's worried that somewhere, somehow, someone might be having a good time. The other side of that coin is that we all know how to work hard. We have that Puritan work ethic. This is our cultural DNA. The U.S. of stress still outworks every other industrialized nation. We still work more hours, less vacation, blah, 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 than any other industrialized country. That's our Puritan work ethic. So if you have trouble like me, if you grew up serious like me, it's okay to practice. It's okay to say crazy things when people ask you stuff. Sometimes people ask me what I do for a living, and I have lots of good answers to that too. One of the things I like to say is, let's say, well, so what do you do? And I'll say, let's say, what? And I'll say, I sell hearing aids. There's almost no question that you can't answer with something goofy. So please consider doing that. All right. Now, those of us in unity know that there are other ways to now thyself, right? We know about meditation. We know about prayer. We know about service. We know about gratitude. We know about powerful feelings of love and connection. But the other thing I just want to touch on for a minute is the experience of the sacred. Excuse me, I'm getting a little froggy again. The experience of the sacred. And what I'm referring to is the mystical connotation of this word sacred. Because what happened when I got mentally ill and I was down in that black hole of despair, and I was so scared that I'd never get out of it, so afraid that I would never have a good day again, just a normal day. I went back to reading mystics because I had gotten away from that. And I rediscovered descriptions of the mystical experience of joining with God. And what we're talking about here is joining with God so completely, merging with God, our consciousness with God, so completely that God is all there is. There's nothing but God, just God. Now, the mystics that have achieved this state and have written about it, well, it's remarkable. The vocabulary is so similar from mystic to mystic to mystic down through the ages. It doesn't matter what tradition, Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, it doesn't matter. Or down through the ages, it's amazing language. It's rapture, nirvana, ecstasy, ultimate bliss, God consciousness, unity consciousness, joy beyond description. The descriptions are just really, really motivating and helpful, and it really helped get me up out of that dark hole, because I felt like if it's possible for humans to live at that level, that high level, then surely it must be possible for me to just get up out of my hole and have a normal day. So what I want to do is just have a little meditative experience just for a couple minutes. And I'm going to play a little music, and I'm going to say a little prayer, and I'm going to give us a chance to just kind of together go down that pathway a short ways. So I invite you at this point to just kind of sit back, relax. You're home, you're in your chair, hopefully something comfortable for you to sit on. So relax and take a nice big, deep couple of breaths and let everything go. I'll play the guitar. And I'm going to share a little prayer with you that I learned, of all places, in China. Okay, so let's get relaxed and just listen. Let all things be healthy. Let all things be peaceful. Be sure to count your blessings at least once a day. Forgive those who have hurt you and those who have offended you. But forgive yourself for what you have done and for that which you have failed to do. That which is done, there is no need to speak of. That which is past, there is no need to blame. Have self-control, self-knowledge, self-respect, and the courage to dare. Be tranquil. The light of intelligence will shine. And strive to make a spot where you stand beautiful. Then the beauty and harmony will follow you in all your days and in all your ways on this journey we call life. And this short verse from my favorite poet, Hafez. Just rest now. Just rest. Let me bring you trays of food and something cool to drink. And use my soft words as a cushion for your head. For this is the hardest work that you will ever do. This separation from God is the hardest work that you will ever do. Okay, let's take a nice big breath and come back to the screen or the room or whatever you want to focus on. And I'm just about to wrap it up with a final song, but I want to thank you again for the gift of your attention. It means more than you know. It's been a crazy year for all of us, but musicians, performers like me, you know, it's been kind of a hard time to make any money or reach people, and so these Zoom services, these Zoom calls really do mean a lot. It's one of the few ways I get to connect with people. So it's really great. It's a big sigh of relief that we're almost out of it. Anyway, I have a website, as I mentioned. All of these songs are available there for you to listen to again for free. There's no charge to listen. There's a lot of other stuff there, as I mentioned, a humor blog and some videos. And so please go help yourself if you feel so inclined. Now, this final song, I've asked if we could play a video, because it's an award-winning song that I wrote a few years ago, but recently a friend of mine made a very timely video to it, and it's kind of cute. It's kind of funny, and I think you'll enjoy the video more than you would just me singing it. So I'm gonna click share screen here, and hopefully it'll work. And once I share my screen, then we'll start this video. Okay, so here we go. Cross your fingers. There we are! Yay! Okay. All right, here we go.
You breathe out, I breathe in. We're sharing molecules again. Oxygen and hydrogen. But do you know where your atoms have been? Parts of me were once in you. Genghis Khan and Hitler too. Jesus Christ and dinosaurs. Princess Diana, Dinah Shore. All the atoms everywhere circle back so we can share. No escaping, yes it's true. Parts of me were once in you. My whole body, smooth and hairy, is really very temporary. Every year a new epidermis. Maybe next year's will be firmer. There's some atom somewhere in Spain I could use back in my brain. They stay a while and then they leave. They only fit what we can see. All the atoms everywhere circle back so we can share. Like some ever-changing brew, parts of me are now in you. As hard as it might seem to be, parts of you were once a tree, once a fish in the primal soup. Something's dinner, something's poop. 15 billion years ago, the Big Bang was quite a show. All this time and now here we are. Parts of you were once a star. All the atoms everywhere circle back so we can share. No escaping, yes it's true. Parts of me were once in you. All the atoms here on earth get recycled, death to birth.
worked. I think it worked. Did it work? Did it work?
We got some of it. Yes, we got some of it.
Some of it.
Some of it. Mine froze, but
Froze?
I've seen it before, so I kind of knew what to expect.
Okay, let me just say that you can see that again on my homepage, gregtamlin.com. If you didn't get the whole thing and you want to see it again, it's right there on my homepage. So feel free, help yourself. And
It's worth a visit. I'm still a big bag of happy atoms.
Okay. Well, great.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah.
Wonderful to have you with us.
Thank you.
We know God provides all wonderful blessings for us. And if you'd like to share some of your blessings with Unity on the Eastern Shore, here is our mailing address. We would be happy to receive your check. And we'll move on to our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, for we are one. And Greg, will you take us out with the peace song, please?
Okay, absolutely. And please, if you're at home and you know the words, but I know you can't hear each other, and I can't hear you, but sing along, because that'll be more fun, just knowing we're all singing. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
Thank you so much. If you'd like to stay and visit now, recording has ended, and the room will be open